We're live. Welcome everyone at home. Welcome everyone here. I'm always surprised when people still come when the weather is like this and the days are getting longer. So, really appreciate your commitment. Um, let's, I have something to talk about, but let's start out with just a little exercise. Um, This is something that in my advanced training, somatic experiencing training, we were doing daily and actually multiple times a day because we would watch demonstrations and talk about difficult and traumatic or traumatizing circumstances and events. And when we talk about those kinds of things, or when we experience those kinds of things, or when we have accumulated stress that creates a sort of disconnect, right? Where we become uncomfortable, we override ourselves, keep doing the thing we need to do, and then we become sort of disembodied, like disconnected from ourselves in order to cope with that. And then that has consequences for relationship, for functioning, driving, right? We have to be fully embodied to do lots of the things that we're doing safely and well, like relating or driving cars or riding bikes or professional responsibilities. And so, one of the ways that we can come back into our being is to connect with a place inside that is kind of like home or center or home base. And one of those places described in, I think it might be yogic. He didn't go into detail about it, but I'm in body centered or body oriented philosophies is a place that is 2 inches below your navel and in the center of your body. And you can either think about that spot and put your attention there, rest there, or like if you just put your thumb over your belly button, the rest of your hand would naturally go over the top of that spot and bring awareness to your center. And there's a fancy name for it in yogic language, but I'm not familiar with the word. But you just want to bring awareness to that place. And as you do that, this is just a little experiment you're conducting. As you do that, also become aware of the ground through your feet. And notice how your legs are connectors that connect the ground to your center through your feet. And just give it a little time to come through for the sensation of groundedness in your center to arrive. We can't just order the body to be present. It's more like we watch and wait, and it knows how to get there. You're just noticing what that seems like for you. And even the tiniest little shift might not be big, it might be subtle. Tiny little shift towards something that feels a little bit more solid, organized, in, in the chair, solid in the chair, a little bit more aware of ground, or a little heavier. anything that feels nice about that, helpful about that, just notice it. Letting yourself rest for a moment in the ease of being in your center. And as you hang out there, just kind of being curious about what it's like to let awareness rest around this lower region of your body in your center. Notice that, generally when we're feeling anxious or stressed or intensity, it seems to be happening up in the upper regions, right? Like chest, diaphragm, head, neck, throat, arms. And how this place just beneath your navel seems to be quieter or more solid when you check in, especially if you can connect it to the ground. And so if this is something that works for you, and when I say it works, meaning you can tell there's a tiny little shift, something feels a little bit more at ease. It's something you might want to be curious about in moments of dis-ease or discomfort. Right? So if I notice what's happening up here on the surface, is there a counterpoint? Can I find this stable, grounded sort of pedestal that supports the activity that seems to be happening in the upper part of the body? A good analogy for this is a nice big tree. Nice tall tree with a fat trunk. Right? The bottom half isn't moving at all. Right? If you're going to hit something with your car, you don't want to hit a tree. Right? They don't move. The trunk doesn't move. And yet, if you look at the top half, right? The sway is there. The bending and moving. But the bottom is grounded and pretty stationary. And so it's possible for both of those things to be happening at the same time. And usually, though, our attention is here, right? It's up here, not with the stable base that's supporting all this activity. So it's something that you can practice or be curious and experiment with. What happens if I notice that there's a base, right? There's a part of me that's supporting all this stuff. Right? That all of my being doesn't come from here. There's a part that feels very centered and grounded that's actually way down here below my belly button. So for the thing that I had hoped to discuss for a little bit this evening, I want to remind, and I do this periodically, because I think it's easy to forget and slip into helping when we have discussions, because the nature of being a human being is that we're often trying to alleviate discomfort. And we might think we're trying to alleviate somebody else's discomfort, but frequently it's our own discomfort. And it takes quite a bit of practice and awareness to notice that it's actually our own stuff. And so when we have discussions and other people make comments in here or ask questions, I just want to remind us all to use, when we comment, to use our own experience as the lens and not try to comment on somebody else's experience or why they might be finding or questioning or experiencing whatever they're stating to be the truth for them. We really want, if you want to offer, make sure you keep it within the scope of this is my experience and not be trying to define somebody else's experience. Okay. And it's tricky to do because we can fall into advice giving really easily, right? It's just how we're put together. Okay. Yes.
Triangle?
Mm-hmm. The drama triangle. Yeah. So this, I just wanted to share and maybe have you guys think about, and you're welcome to comment on if you like. I put it, I can't remember if I shared it on the Facebook page or not. So there's a Facebook page that I manage and try to keep going that goes alongside the blog, Mind, Body, Spirit Academy. And I post stuff there related to non-dual spirituality, but also health and wellness and just things, food for thought kind of stuff. And someone had shared an article recently about struggle and timing and how we have this urgency around productivity and list making. And it was a HuffPost article, and I think it was probably a writer or a blogger that wrote this article. And she wrote this nice little piece that was basically saying, you know, we can push and struggle, but sometimes the timing, you know, we can force things to happen, but lots of times it's just that's not the right time. And maybe we want to think about the ways that we effort or struggle, and that there's a place for this idea of your insides letting you know, right? She was talking about prajna. She was not which is, you know, that inner wisdom. She wasn't using Buddhist or non-dual language or spiritual language, but she was definitely in plain English stating this idea of questioning the urgency around productivity, this human being versus human doing concept. And I read it and I thought, oh, that's, you know, that's pretty nice. It felt like there was something a little bit missing to me, but in general, like, yeah, this would be great for a lot of people to see or hear. And then I skipped down to the comments thinking that there was going to be lots of warm, fuzzy stuff there. And I was surprised about 50% of it was like, oh, yes, makes sense. I needed to hear this and I'm relieved. And the other 50% was like, people who sit on their ass and do nothing are worthless and nothing ever gets changed by doing nothing, that kind of thing. And so the comments were really polarized, and I was surprised because I think I could hear the way the article was intended, although she may have unintentionally invited some polarization or antagonism by the use of the F word several times, but she was trying to really emphasize this point of, just stop it. All this intensity. And how many more articles can a person read, or books can a person read about productivity and procrastination, and how to make the right kind of list, right? And all the checking. And I mean, starting to touch into the self-worth piece tied to doing. But the animosity toward the non-doing, it caught me a little bit by surprise. And also not was kind of a good reminder for me about the societal forces, the pressures that we're surrounded by to do, perform, fix. And if I had written the article, I think what I would have wanted to emphasize in there was the reason that we might want to delay action, the reason why sometimes we might want to ease up on the struggle. Does anybody have any idea what that reason might be? Why we might want to delay taking action from that urgent place?
Oh, so we don't make a big mistake and do something we'll regret.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because that urgency, we may not realize it if it drives us, if we let it drive us all the time. But where does that urgency come from? Right? That's the real question. When we feel the urgency to act or to make something happen, the thing to be curious about is the urgency, right? Why or where does that come from? Right? Instead of just taking it for granted that it's true. Right? If we don't question the urgency, we think we're right. We act from the place of I know. Right? The space for other input and other ideas is very tiny. As soon as we say I know, we're closed off to other interpretations, other options, other feedback, other ideas about how to solve it.
So you're saying that's if we act upon the urgency and not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. If we act upon the urgency, we're acting from I know. Right? We've already foreclosed the deal. We've assumed the urgency is correct. And if we use non-dual language to describe the urgency, it's usually one of two kinds of urgency, right? It's grasping, right? I want, or it's aversion. I don't want. So we either want something really badly, or we're trying to avoid something really badly. Ego-driven energies, the two basic movements of ego. I want, I don't want. Right? That's hooked up on purpose that way. That's our survival mechanism in place before smart part of the human brain developed. Right? Best chance of survival. Avoid the yucky stuff. Move toward the stuff that feels good, tastes good. Yeah. And even though we're way smarter than that now, we still tend to be slaves to our drives. Okay? And the only way to stop being a slave to unconscious conditioning and drives is to question what we usually take for granted.
Do you think that that emotion, more often than not, comes from passion, like anger? I guess anger just could we could just kind of go off.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think most humans, unless they're incredibly narcissistic, or have a narcissistic wound, right, heavy trauma, are going to have a response, right? They're going to feel something when they see harm occurring or something that they perceive to be harmful, right, to themselves, to others. And if we use that word passion, what are we really talking about? When you say passion, what I'm hearing, what I'm thinking you're describing is intensity of feeling experience.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Whatever that is.
Right. So intensity.
Happy
It's
or mad
strong.
or sad.
Right. Intensity. Yeah. And the intensity tends to be an indication of the amount of stuff, right, experiences that we have to support the belief in that passion. Right? So, really simplified example, if I have a collection of experiences, especially really young, of being oppressed or witnessing oppression, then when I see it, right, it could be teacher scolding a kid, right? Right? All that is going to be, because all that stuff inside, all at the same time, is going to recognize, right, that dynamic that's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
And project it. There's a whole lot of stuff happening there. But in general, when our stuff, and some traditions use the word karma, right, our stuff just keeps recycling. Right? And every time it recycles, rises up in the form of passion, there's an opportunity. Are we going to reinforce the intensity by responding to it without question? Or can we do something different in that moment? Right? I think most people view the intensity, the egoic intensity of emotion, as something that we can't live without. That if we don't have that intensity, that's the juice. If we don't have that intensity, right, ego is not interested in a life that doesn't have that intensity. I remember a point in my therapy where a very astute question was asked of me, and I realized there was this possibility to not live on the roller coaster of emotion. And something inside of me that I now would probably refer to as egoic identification said, if that's gone, what's the point? Boring. Who wants to live like that? Right? No passion. Because ego is not interested in stuff that doesn't reinforce the strength of its identity. Right? If we engage in or cultivate experiences that strengthen the ego is like, oh, yeah, all for it. Don't care. It can be good stuff or bad stuff. But it makes me feel really big. Like my meanness, who I am, is really reinforced by having experiences that resonate with my meanness. So if the experience is people are always putting a trip on me, right? Or putting me down or looking at me funny, then I'll take that. I know who I am, right? This is something I can count on. It reinforces my identity. If I'm somebody who helps people all the time, I'm always giving and I'm always volunteering. And no matter what anybody asks of me, I'm always saying yes because I'm a good person. Gosh darn it, people like me. Right? Then that's my identity. And maybe I'll just disown all the other parts of me, right? Anger, sadness, depression, disappointment, any of the parts that don't reinforce the identity I like, which is I'm a good person. I help people. Okay? It really doesn't matter. We can take anything and construct our identity out of it. Right? And we do. We do. I'm a dog person. I'm a cat person. I'm a house person. I'm an apartment person. I'm a warm weather person. I'm a cold weather person. Right? I'm an indoor person. I'm an outdoor person. I'm a mother, sister, brother, father. Right? And on and on and on. Employee. I'm a good employee. Right? I'm responsible.
But hasn't that put your whole life built up as you are somebody's daughter, you are somebody's wife, you are a homeowner, apartment dweller, a cat lover, a dog lover, an employee.
Are you, or is that your personality? Is that the thing? Is that the suit that awareness is wearing?
I don't know.
And I don't know is a great place to hang out and be curious about this. Right? Am I all the things I take myself to be?
But then how do you figure out who you are?
That's the fundamental question in spiritual inquiry. Who am I? What am I? Really? Right? If I go inside and I look and I try to find myself. Have you ever tried to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
I have.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where is it? Where is she? Right? I'm going to find the real me. Right? And you look and you can't find it. And you can't show it to me right now either. Right? Yeah. All these things we take ourselves to be, that that we're kind of playing at, right? And what if it was just spirit, or whatever you want to call that, awareness, whatever's looking out of your eyes, the undefinable thing that is aware of being here in the chair, in the room, right now? What if that is really what you are? And everything else is changeable, right? Your job can change, your titles can change, your likes and preferences and tastes can change, right? We can change our behavior. And what if that is what we are? An undefinable mystery showing up as Sue, right? That people recognize in this certain form, right? And you respond to that name. You wake up every day, and when you look in the mirror, the awareness seems to be looking out of the same set of eyes.
Only more I see my mom.
Right.
Oh, that's
Right. Mom or
scary
dad.
one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, don't even go there. Yeah. Right? Right. I can't remember who coined the term an orchestra without a conductor. If we really look for ourselves inside, what we find is life is there, the looking is there, but we can't really, right? We can't serve up anything else concrete. Everything else changes. Everything. The body ages, how I feel about things changes from day to day, my thoughts change. Right? My experience is this flow, this never-ending flow that seems combined with a flow of commentary. Right? But what if there is the thing we call me or I is just a convenient reference point? It'd be really confusing if we tried to run around and talk to each other without a reference point, right? Me, my stuff, right? I have an office. Here's the address. You can call me by this name. Here's my business card. Here's my phone number, right? We can't just be bodies walking around as manifestations of awareness. We have to have reference points. It's just when they taught us this in school, right? Gave us the labels for everything. They didn't mention, oh, by the way, it's just a label. Bird is just a word. It's not the same thing as the bird. When the bird flies across the sky, you still know it's a bird, even without the word bird. Right? Even without the name Sue, you're aware of your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness is aware of itself. So I didn't expect us to go here. Lovely. So, okay to take a little break before we meditate? Okay. Meet back in 5? Okay, cool.
So homework for this week.
really letting yourself notice the feeling of the chair as you settle in and the support of the chair. Which is really supported by the ground. And then you're going to let your attention rise up to start scanning your body. And we'll do it a little differently this time. You're going to let yourself notice your head. And you can notice all the parts that we generally guide through the scan, but we're just going to do something a little bit different today. You're going to notice the parts in your face, jaw, eyes, temples, back of the head and neck, that generally might capture your attention through some sort of discomfort or sensation. And you can give those parts friendly attention for a moment, remembering your only job is to notice. And possibly doing the things that we sometimes do to alleviate tension, letting the ears drop slightly, loosening the tongue, letting the eyes sink back into their sockets. But you're also going to see if you can let your attention notice the areas where nothing seems to be happening. Are there spots where your attention doesn't go? In your head or face or temples? Somewhere that there seems to be either no sensation or a feeling of blankness or absentness. And you're just letting yourself notice the parts that don't draw your attention initially. And then leaving whatever you discovered right where you found it. Prepare to move your attention down into the trunk of your body, into your torso, noticing from your neck down to your hips, seated in the chair, so you can take note of all those major areas in the front and back, chest and belly, upper, middle, and lower back, the bowl that your hips make, your hip bones make, that support the rest of your body and carry you around. And letting your attention go to those places where there might be some discomfort or some interest because of some sort of movement or sensation. Pleasant or unpleasant. Just letting yourself notice. Perhaps creating some space around any unpleasantness. Letting yourself breathe in and out from that spot for a moment, just to see what happens. Giving more breathing room to that space. And then letting your attention turn to any areas that it didn't notice the first time. So again, these might be areas of blankness or disconnection, heaviness or deadness, or just completely neutral feeling. Just taking note of those areas for a moment that your attention isn't naturally drawn to. Letting yourself be curious about those areas for a moment. And then gently preparing to shift your attention to noticing your limbs, arms and legs. Noticing any discomfort that's there, or anything else, tingling or feelings of flow or vibration, coolness or warmth. Making space for noticing. And as a reminder, it's just whatever seems to be there. Allowing that it might change from moment to moment. Whether it's fatigue or restlessness or anything else. And then letting your attention turn for a moment to areas in your arms and legs that seem absent or unavailable, or that your attention was not noticing when you first looked, not attracted to when you first looked. Allowing yourself to be curious for a moment about the blank spots or the uninteresting places. And then pausing for a moment to see if you can feel your entire body, all the parts connected. Noticing how all of the parts are connected. Limbs connected to your trunk at shoulders and hips, head connected to your trunk at the neck. And then being curious about where the sensation of breathing in and breathing out seems to be coming from. Letting awareness float to the spot where breathing seems to be happening most prominently for you. And letting yourself rest in any part of the breath that feels comfortable to you. Whether that's the rhythm of in and out through sound or sensation, or the movement of air, the sensation of that at the nose or throat. Or the movement that happens in your chest or belly as it rises and falls. Or the sound. Or perhaps you're interested in the space at the end of your out breath. The pause that seems to be there after you exhale, but before you take the next breath in. Noticing what it's like to rest there in that pause at the end of the out breath without changing your breathing in any way. And then as you feel ready, starting to let seep into your awareness other things that are happening alongside your breathing in the present moment. So that could be my voice or sounds in the room or outside of the room. Awareness of the chair or the ground. Or even thought or emotion, which are also part of the stream of experience, something that your awareness might notice, place that attention could go to. But see if you can just notice thinking is happening without getting too caught up in the content. Right? Not getting too involved in what the thoughts are thinking about. We're not getting too involved in what boredom or sleepiness or irritation or restlessness might be trying to say is causing them. Instead, you're just seeing if you can notice the experience of those things. And can you notice from a place that says everything is allowed, no matter what the experience? It's allowed to be as it is. And you can introduce this experimental question that we always use if you want to. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? As a way of genuinely inquiring into what it's like to release control, not forcing the letting go, but really just inquiring genuinely, what would that be like if I did that? If I stopped efforting, stopped struggling, if for just a short time I was not in opposition to anything in this moment, what would that experience be like? And there are no words to answer the question. It's more like, how would I experience that? And all you can do is stop and experience it to get the answer. And you're just checking. So what's it like? What's it like if I let go of the controller? If I stop trying to get anything right now? What if everything is perfect in this moment exactly as it is, without my assistance? That nothing in this moment needs my help. Not even this meditation. I don't even have to meditate well or try to. All I'm doing is noticing what happens if I allow everything to be as it is for this short time. No conditions, placing no demands on my experience for this little block of time. What's that like? Can attention be allowed to notice whatever it likes? Without getting too caught up or attached to any of it, without taking any of it too seriously. What's it like even to let go of the meditator? Rules about meditating. just resting in awareness like a comfy chair. And just taking a couple more minutes now as we reach the end of our meditation to savor silence. One last chance to go back and really be present in silence and peace. To really allow the experience of space perhaps noticing the timelessness, that feeling of timelessness. It's hard to tell how much time has passed. And you can introduce this question as often as you like, even outside of the meditation cushion. In any moment where the intensity seems to be grabbing you, pulling you away from your center, you can ask, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? And as you feel ready, begin to feel some energy in your arms and legs, and offer gentle movement to fingers and toes, taking as much time as you need to transition to a more wakeful state. So nice to be with you all this evening.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.